Over the present year, I've been following a little challenge to paint some of the coolest old stuff from my pile of opportunity, and today is another installment for that. These are the Spec Ops Team from Hasslefree Minatures, which are totally not SG-1 from the TV series that only just wrapped up a week ago or so. It hasn't been 2 decades, shut up. It's fine. I would love to show you some more of the awesome models from Hasslefree, as their quality is some of the nicest sculpted and cast metal models that I have ever had experience with in my several decades, weeks of model making. Unfortunately, Hasslefree are still on an extended hiatus, although their website message has changed recently to say they will be coming back soon. Here's hoping. Thankfully, I already have these and I really wanted to get stuck into painting them today. Now, when I first got these several years ago, it was during that kind of zenehtal priming fad, and I never really got on with it, but these models have a pretty strong zenehtal that I put on at the time, and so I may as well come back and give it another go. The idea is that you have a dark and a light undercoat in your priming layer that has a directional element to it. And then you thin down any paint with medium and water so that it remains sticky but goes down translucently. And that means that the light and dark from the priming will still be visible as light and dark tones in your kind of the hue of whatever paint you're putting on top. For me, this was just very inconsistent. There are certainly areas in the green uniform, which is where I started, that I did manage the effect, but also there's plenty of areas where I got the paint way too thin and it looks splotchy. Or so thick that it obliterates the values underneath and just looks like a solid green. A lot of practice is required, methinks. With the dark green uniform being fairly inconsistent, I went over it with a lighter green just as a faint highlight to bring the overall effect closer to what it really should have been in the first place. And I went back with the darker green as well to fix up a few bits here and there just in the shadows and to clean up some of the splotchiness. I had thought that because it was a darker green, it was just too opaque a paint for the zenehtal effect to really work, so when I moved over to the black for the webbing, I just assumed that this wouldn't work in the slightest, but I kind of gave it a go as practice is practice. And oddly, it did kind of work, and actually better than the green. I have 2 black paints, and this first one is a charcoaly, extremely dark green, and it shouldn't be green, it should be pure black, because charcoal is pure black, but whatever. By thinning this charcoal paint down, it really went down very lightly, very thin, and it just tinted all of the webbing in that zenehtal style. Now, it's still not perfect, not by a long way, it's splotchy just like the green was, but because it's meant to be black, the brights and darks really stand out rather well. I did come back for a second layer only in just a few areas of the shadow to darken them, and then for the weapons I actually went to the other, my darker black paint, as I wanted them to look different even if it's all black. Oh yeah, and my painting handle makes it really easy to paint boots, check the description. I knew that these models would be a very quick paint job, just a few colours and using the zenehtal to help me on my way with some definition, but the skin is going to be the one thing that I was not looking forwards to. The skin has been my weakest part of painting, but there's also a variety of skin tones in this set, so I can't just batch paint them all in one go. For Jack, I leaned into the zenehtal and I went all over the skin with a rich, slightly darker Caucasian paint. My wet palette had some paints that looked like they would make a good highlight, but they ended up kind of a bit grey as I put them on the model, so I added just a little bit of a lighter Caucasian paint, which does have a touch of red in it, and that gave me an appropriate highlight colour. For George, I wanted a much ruddier skin tone for those big guns, so I put a spot of some bruised purple for the base coat, and then I highlighted in a striping motion with the dark Caucasian to give some muscle definition as well. And I went back and forth and I ended up adding some of the lighter paint as well for some fine lining on the top. For Daniel, the first layer was a mix of the 2 Caucasian paints and then highlighted with the lighter. I wanted to create a smoother look here with less contrast, but then I decided to go back with some brown to reinforce the colour separation between the skin and the other parts of the model that weren't skin. With Sam, I kind of tried the opposite, starting with a lighter paint to see what the zenehtal could achieve, which unfortunately was nothing because this light Caucasian paint is terrible, and then I painted in the shadows with the darker Caucasian paint, ending up in a slightly different effect but overall very similar tone to a lot of the others. For teal'c, I'm going to a black skin tone now, and I still want to maintain some red in it, so I mixed some purple with my rich dark brown, and this totally obliterated the zenehtal. Two very strongly pigmented paints, the zenehtal didn't stand a chance. I base coated over that with a rich dark brown, same paint but just unmixed, leaving only the tiniest traces of that purple still visible, and then I highlighted with orange, which seems strange, but remember orange is yellow and red, and a lighter colour than the brown, and so it keeps the redness while still being a highlight colour. Now, I'm not familiar with this and I wasn't sure quite how bright I could make it, and I did end up using some of the darker Caucasian paint as a final highlight, but then I also went over it with the rich dark brown again to deepen a lot of that as well. And just like I said, these 5 models were painted really quickly. The zenehtal concept certainly has a lot of benefits, but I'm just not experienced enough with it to take advantage of those benefits. I think having some practice at getting really consistent thin coats is something that I will put time into before heading back over to the zenehtal style. But the thing is, whilst these don't look better than my usual style, it is a fair load faster. These 5 models were painted in the same time as I usually paint maybe 2 models, and I have painted the characters from that TV show that just finished last week, not 2 decades ago. Shut up, stop talking about it. If you have any comments, any mentions of Hasslefree or these models themselves, or if you have more experience with the zenehtal painting style than I do, there is a comment section down below for that type of stuff. But for now, I'm ED-SKaR, always will be, and thank you very much for watching.